She hadn't been to the Belmont estate in over 6 years, not since Nathan left for college, and promised he'd always stay in touch. Of course, like most promises made by children to nannies, that one faded somewhere between dorm parties and business school. But when the call came last week, something in her heart fluttered with a mix of worry and warmth. "Gloria, Nathan's coming home. He wants you to stay at the estate for a few weeks. He's bringing someone special," the butler had said over the phone. She packed her one suitcase, the same one she'd used since the early 90s. Nothing about her life screamed wealth. She still lived in a small worn apartment on the outskirts of town and worked part-time watching a neighbor's grandkids. But to Nathan Belmont, she had been more than help. She was his protector, his comfort, his family. Or at least, she thought. She still was. The estate hadn't changed. Tall white pillars, glass windows that shimmered like ice, and a driveway longer than most roads in her part of town. When she stepped out of the cab, the wind caught her hair and memories rushed in. Nathan running barefoot, yelling for cookies, his little arms hugging her tight after his parents' shouting matches. She smiled gently, nostalgic, almost hopeful. But that faded the second she appeared. High heels clicked across the marble steps like a warning. The woman descending the stairs was effortlessly beautiful. Long legs, flawless skin, designer everything. Her sunglasses didn't just hide her eyes, they broadcasted her status. She didn't offer a smile, not even a greeting. Just a pause, a full-body scan of Gloria like she was observing a poorly wrapped package at her doorstep. "Oh, you must be the nanny." The way she said it felt like an insult. "Yes, I'm Gloria. I helped raise Nathan," she said, keeping her tone polite. Right." The woman made no move to help with her bag, didn't even glance at the cab driver. "You'll stay in the staff wing. Nathan said you're just here for a visit." Gloria was confused. "Just here for a visit," she echoed. The woman finally removed her glasses. Her eyes were sharp, calculating. "I'm Ivy, Nathan's fiancée." She emphasized the word like she'd won a prize. "And things have changed around here. We don't need help like you anymore." Gloria stood silent for a moment, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or slap the smugness off this woman's face. But instead, she gave a short nod and followed the butler toward the guest quarters, now apparently staff wing. For the next few days she was ignored, invisible. Ivy made sure she sat at the far end of the dinner table when she was even invited. Nathan was polite, warm even, but distracted like he was trying to keep peace. Gloria could see it in his eyes. He wasn't the boy she raised, not completely. Something about him had changed, too careful, too cold when Ivy was around. One night, Gloria found Ivy in the hallway yelling at one of the younger maids. About dust, about towels not being folded the Italian hotel way. The girl looked about 20, trembling. "You can't talk to her like that," Gloria said sharply. Ivy turned around, her lips curling into a slow, venomous smile. "Oh, I can, and I will, because unlike you, she knows her place." That night, Gloria lay awake in bed. Something was wrong, something deeper than just a mean girlfriend or wedding stress. Ivy wasn't just rude, she was controlling, manipulative. And Nathan was slipping under her shadow. But Ivy had made one big mistake. She'd forgotten who Gloria really was. Not just a nanny, but a woman who'd survived poverty, heartbreak, and years of being underestimated. And Gloria had just started paying attention. The morning sun spilled across the marble floors like it belonged there, untouched and golden. But in the corners of the Belmont estate, there were cracks, and Gloria saw every one of them. She kept her head down at breakfast, sipping her weak coffee from a chipped mug that hadn't been there when she used to run the kitchen with love and order. Nathan sat at the head of the table, scrolling on his phone, offering an occasional nod to Ivy's endless talk about their upcoming engagement party. 200 guests, private garden ceremony, white roses only. And no children, Ivy declared, spearing a strawberry with unnecessary force. Gloria looked up. "No children?" she asked gently. Ivy blinked. "Yeah, this isn't a daycare, Gloria." She smiled like she'd said something clever. Nathan didn't even flinch. That's what hurt the most. Later that day, Gloria visited the gardener, Marco. He was still there, older now, with more grey in his beard, but the same warm eyes. "She's got that boy wrapped tight," Marco whispered, shaking his head. Don't make a move without her permission," Gloria nodded slowly. "I noticed." That afternoon, she sat in the small lounge near the piano room, flipping through an old album she'd found buried in a box in the basement. Photos of Nathan, toothy grinned, hugging her legs on Christmas morning, his kindergarten graduation, his 8th birthday when his parents forgot, and she baked him a cake shaped like a dinosaur. "Why are you in here?" Ivy's voice sliced through the air. Gloria calmly closed the album. "I was just remembering the boy who used to live in this house. He was kind." Ivy crossed her arms. "And now, he's a man. A very successful one. Which means he's moved. On from the help." Gloria stood slowly, holding the album tight. "You don't know what love built this house. You only see the furniture." Ivy scoffed. "Please, if you're trying to guilt-trip Nathan with your old memories, it's pathetic. He's with me now, and once we're married, you'll be nothing but a sad footnote." Gloria didn't answer. She just left the room, her face unreadable. But inside her, something snapped. She'd given everything for that boy: time, love, sleepless nights when he had the flu, sitting in the principal's office when his parents didn't show. She taught him how to tie his shoes, how to apologize, how to stand up for himself. And now she was being treated like trash by some shallow little queen who thought money meant superiority. No, not anymore. She started observing things closely, quietly. Ivy's phone habits, her meetings, the way. She slipped away on certain afternoons in heels too fancy for a grocery run. Then one night, Gloria overheard something. "I told you to stop calling me," Ivy whispered harshly on the phone in the garden, pacing. "Do not send those photos here. I'm not paying you again. I'm serious. If Nathan finds out—" The call ended with her shoving the phone deep into her purse, muttering curses. Gloria stood frozen in the shadows, heart pounding. There it was, proof. Ivy was hiding something. Maybe someone. She didn't want to go to Nathan, not yet. He was too far gone, too loyal to a fantasy. But Gloria had raised him to value truth. And now, it was time to bring him face to face with it. Later, that evening, as Ivy lounged by the pool, Gloria stepped outside and placed a fresh glass of lemonade beside her. Calm, quiet, composed. "Oh, so you do know how to be useful," Ivy mocked, not even looking at her. Gloria smiled faintly. "You've made a mistake, Ivy. You thought I was just a nanny." Ivy raised an eyebrow behind her designer sunglasses. "I'm much more than that," Gloria whispered, "and I'm not done yet." Then she turned and walked back inside, leaving Ivy blinking after her, unsure whether it was a threat or a promise. The next morning, Gloria left the estate before sunrise. She didn't take a car. She walked half a mile to the nearest bus, stopped and rode into the city, holding a small notepad in her purse and a plan in her head. Nathan might not want to hear it from her. Not yet. But proof. Proof didn't lie. She started with a name. Derek. That was who Ivy had whispered on the phone. Gloria had heard it faintly, like it was a slip. She jotted it down along with a partial phone number she'd caught when Ivy repeated it angrily. A few contacts in the city, mostly old mums she used to babysit for, helped her narrow it down, and then came the jackpot. Derek Simmons, personal trainer, club promoter, and former fiancé to another wealthy man's daughter, before she dropped charges against him mysteriously. Gloria dug deeper. Through a friend of a friend, she got access to Derek's social media. His account was private, but his friend list, not so much, among them Ivy Marlowe. One tagged photo caught Gloria's eye, 2 years old. A beachside bar. Ivy in a white dress, legs draped across Derek's lap, kissing his neck. The caption? "The King and Queen of Secrets." Gloria took screenshots, every single one. Then she did something she hadn't done in years. She walked into a print shop, paid cash, and left with an envelope full of glossy, undeniable proof. Back. At the estate, she waited. Nathan was in his office. Ivy was out, claiming she was wedding dress shopping with a planner who hadn't returned her calls in a week. Gloria stood at Nathan's door, her heart pounding harder than it had in years. She knocked. "Come in," he called. He looked surprised to see her, really see her. Maybe for the first time since she arrived. His eyes softened, but only for a second. "I wanted to talk," she said. He gestured toward the chair. "Of course, Gloria. Everything okay?" She sat down, quiet for a moment. "Do you remember what I used to tell you when you lied about breaking something?" Nathan blinked. "You said, truth always comes back around." She nodded. "I never stopped meaning it." She reached into her purse and pulled out the envelope. "I don't want to hurt you, Nathan. I just want you to know who you're marrying." He took it slowly, like it was fragile, opened it, his brows furrowed, and then his whole face dropped. There were at least 8 photos. Ivy with Derek. Ivy in clubs laughing as Derek leaned in too close. Ivy drunk and barefoot in a hotel hallway with a caption that read, "Guess who's back in my bed." She told me she hadn't dated in years, Nathan whispered, eyes darting through the pages. Gloria leaned forward gently. "She's been paying someone to stay quiet. I overheard her threatening him just 2 nights ago." Nathan looked up, stunned. "Why didn't you say anything before?" Gloria smiled sadly. "Because you wouldn't have believed me." He looked away. Shame flushed his face. "You're right. I wouldn't have. I've been blind, haven't I?" "Love can do that," she said. "But that girl, she doesn't love you, Nathan. She loves what your name brings her." He sat back in the chair, photos in his lap. Silent. Then the door burst open. Ivy stood there, wind-blown and furious. She must have overheard. Her eyes locked on the photos in Nathan's hand. "What the hell is this?" she snapped. "You tell me," Nathan said coldly. Ivy stormed in, snatched a photo. "This is ancient. That's nothing. He meant nothing to me." Gloria stood. "Then why are you still sending him money?" Ivy's mouth opened, then closed. Nathan's voice was low. "You've been lying to me since day one. Because you wouldn't look at me otherwise," she shouted. "You only want me because I'm perfect, because I smile and play your little princess. You don't know what it's like to crawl your way up from nothing." Gloria narrowed her eyes. "Oh, honey, you don't know a damn thing about crawling." Ivy's gaze turned venomous. "You set this up. You jealous, old, bitter maid." Nathan stood, voice cutting. "Stop! Don't you ever speak to her like that again." Ivy froze. The silence was deafening. Then Nathan said it. Soft, but final. "You need to leave." "No," she whispered, voice trembling now. "You can't do this. We're getting married." "No," he said again. "We're not." She screamed, threw the envelope at him, slammed the door so hard the painting on the wall tilted, and then she was gone. Gloria stood in the middle of the room, shaken but steady. Nathan looked at her. "I'm sorry for letting her treat you that way." She didn't say anything, just reached over, fixed the tilted painting and said, "Now the house is starting to look right again." Nathan spent the next few days in a daze. He'd cut Ivy off, but the realization that everything had been a lie crushed him. His mornings had been consumed with work, but his evenings were different now, darker, more hollow, and Gloria. She stayed close, as always, but now there was a shift. Something unspoken passed between them. She hadn't just been his caretaker, she had been his protector. And the way she stood up for him in front of Ivy, he had never seen her quite like that before. He spent hours walking around the house, unsure of what to do next. It wasn't just about Ivy anymore. His whole life had been upended. He felt like a fool. Worse, he felt like he had let down the woman who had raised him like a son. Gloria kept to herself, though. She didn't rush to comfort him. She didn't even seem to expect it. She had every right to be angry. After all, Ivy had humiliated her. She had been the one to expose the ugly truth. But Nathan knew now. He saw it. He saw the cracks Ivy had left in the foundation of everything, and he had to face it, no matter how hard it was. That afternoon, Gloria was tending to the garden when he approached her. She didn't hear him at first, and when she turned, her face softened. But there was something in her eyes, something distant. "I'm sorry, Gloria, I don't know what else to say." He was still carrying the weight of the last few days. She paused. Then, with a steady hand, she placed the garden, Tool down and looked up at him. "You don't owe me anything, Nathan. You never did." But that wasn't true. Nathan owed her everything. "I do," he insisted, stepping closer. "I owe you my life, my happiness. You've been the one person in this entire world who cared for me without expecting anything in a return." Gloria shook her head, though a smile tugged at her lips. "I raised you to be a good man, Nathan. A good man sees the truth, and you saw it finally. That's all I ever wanted." But something still felt incomplete. Nathan knew he hadn't fully addressed what Ivy had done to Gloria, what she'd tried to take from her. It wasn't just about betrayal, it was about respect. Ivy had robbed Gloria of that, and Nathan had allowed it. He wasn't about to make the same mistake again. "I'm going to make this right," Nathan said firmly, a fire in his eyes. "I'm going to fix this." Gloria didn't argue. She didn't need to. She had already taught him everything he needed to know. But Ivy's betrayal wasn't done yet. That night, as Nathan sat in the living room, he heard a knock at the door. He didn't have to guess who it was. He opened it, and there stood Ivy, looking every bit the picture of a broken woman. Her eyes were red, her hair unkempt. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice trembling. Nathan didn't invite her in. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "There's nothing left to say." Her lip quivered. "Please, Nathan, I made a mistake. I was wrong. You have to believe me." "Do I?" He shook his head. "You've been lying to me for months." "No, for years. I don't think I can ever trust you again. Not after everything." Ivy's eyes filled with tears, but Nathan didn't flinch. "Not this time." "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But I love you." Nathan paused, but only for a moment. "Love isn't about control, Ivy. It's about trust, and you never gave me that." She looked at him with desperation, but he remained firm. "I can't be with someone who doesn't respect me." "I won't." Ivy's face twisted in anger. "You think you can throw me away like this, after everything I've done for you? You're nothing without me, Nathan." Nathan stared her down. "No, you're the one who's nothing. You used me, Ivy. And I'm done being your puppet." Ivy's eyes darkened, and for a moment, Nathan wondered if she was going to lash out. But she didn't. Instead, she took a step back, her expression turning cold. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "You'll see. You'll regret ever letting me go." Nathan didn't react. He simply closed the door in her face. He was done. Ivy was done. The next few days were quiet, but there was an undercurrent of tension in the air. Ivy hadn't left. She was still lurking around, trying to get back into Nathan's life, trying to manipulate him into seeing her side of things. But Gloria saw it all. She saw the way Ivy lingered at the gates, trying to get a glimpse of Nathan. She saw the messages Ivy sent, the desperate attempts to claw her way back into the family. It was all too much. One afternoon, Gloria had had enough. She called Nathan into the living room. "Nathan, you need to understand something," she said, her voice low but firm. "I've seen women like Ivy before. They tear everything apart, and when they're done, they walk away without a scratch." Nathan frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you don't get to have her back. Not after what she's done. She'll destroy everything again." Nathan opened his mouth, but no words came out. His eyes shifted to the door, as if expecting Ivy to come barging in. But for the first time, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid of her anymore, and he wasn't afraid to stand up for the woman who had been there for him from the very beginning. The police showed up at the estate 3 days later. It was just past noon when Gloria heard the doorbell. A young officer, stiff in his posture, stood holding a clipboard while another lingered by the squad car. Nathan came rushing down the stairs, confused. "Mr. Belmont," the officer began, "we received a report of theft. Miss Ivy Marlowe claims a large sum of her personal property is missing. Jewelry, luxury items, designer bags. She says you're in possession of them." Gloria's stomach sank. Nathan blinked. "That's ridiculous. She left with all her things." "She claims otherwise," the officer replied, flipping a page. "And she also stated that you, or a member of your staff, may have removed some items out of revenge after the breakup." Nathan's eyes shifted to Gloria immediately. His heart dropped. "No," he said firmly. Absolutely not. Gloria would never— The officer cut him off. We'll need to ask her some questions anyway. Gloria stepped forward calmly. I have nothing to hide. Nathan looked at her, torn between fury and disbelief. Not at her, but at Ivy. How far would she go? False accusations? Dragging Gloria into it? As Gloria sat in the study with the officer, she answered every question without hesitation. She explained how Ivy had left the property screaming, how she had stormed off with 3 designer bags and a driver she called herself. There were cameras, records, witnesses, and Gloria. Gloria didn't even know where Ivy kept her jewelry, let alone touch it. When the officers left, apologizing quietly for the disturbance, Nathan sank into a chair with his hands over his face. She's trying to destroy you now, Gloria said, quietly, piece by piece. I don't get it, he muttered. She got caught. She should be embarrassed. But instead she's doubling down like a cornered animal. Gloria's voice was cold now. Because women like Ivy don't leave quietly. They burn things down on their way out. That evening, Nathan called his lawyer. By the next morning, a restraining order had been filed. Ivy would be barred from approaching the estate, contacting Nathan, or attempting to enter the property again, but that didn't mean she'd stop. Gloria knew that better than anyone. A week passed, then another. And then Ivy made her next move. A local gossip blog published a story with the headline, Belmont heiress-to-be accuses ex-nanny of emotional manipulation and theft. The article was full of Ivy's poison. She painted Gloria as a bitter woman who had infiltrated Nathan's life, jealous of her success, and obsessed with the role of mother to a man who didn't need her anymore. Nathan was livid. I'm calling them, he snapped. I'm suing for defamation. But Gloria placed a hand gently on his arm. No, she said. Not yet. Gloria, she's dragging your name through the mud. You've done nothing wrong. Her eyes were calm, focused. But something burned behind them now, something Ivy had never seen coming. She wants us to react, to spiral, but I've played the long game longer than she's been alive, Nathan. He stared at her. I've raised children who spat in my face and came back years later, begging for forgiveness. I've cleaned the vomit of drunk rich parents while smiling through Christmas morning. Ivy thinks this is pressure. She doesn't know the half of what I've survived. Nathan slowly sat down, speechless. Gloria walked over to the table and pulled out a small box. Inside were letters, old ones, handwritten by Nathan himself as a child. Letters saying how much he loved her, how he'd never forget her, how she was the only person who made the house feel like home. Let her keep screaming into the wind, Gloria said softly. You and I, we've got the truth. And if she wants a war, then she's just picked it with a woman who's never lost one. The next day, Nathan held a press conference. He didn't attack Ivy. He didn't stoop to her level. Instead, he told the truth. He thanked Gloria publicly for being his second mother, for raising him when his own parents were too busy, for teaching him how to love, how to fight, how to see through lies. He didn't even mention Ivy by name. But he didn't have to. The media picked it up fast. Nathan Belmont honors former nanny in touching statement. She's the reason I am who I am. And just like that, Ivy's smear campaign crumbled. But Gloria knew better. Ivy wasn't done. No, Ivy was just regrouping, and whatever she did next, it would be personal. The restraining order didn't stop Ivy from slipping into the shadows. She stopped making public noise, but behind the scenes, things were moving. Rumors started popping up. Anonymous calls to Nathan's office accusing Gloria of elder abuse. A fake Yelp review calling her a gold-digging housemaid. Even a forged email sent to one of Nathan's charities claiming Gloria had stolen donations. Each one failed, each one was traced. But it wasn't the lies that rattled Gloria. It was the intention. Ivy had flipped a switch. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was warfare. Nathan tried to shield Gloria as best he could, insisting she move into the main house again. You're not a guest, he told her. You're family. But Gloria knew. She had seen women like Ivy before, spoiled, cunning, born with charm and sharpened teeth. When they couldn't win, they didn't walk away. They made sure no one else could be happy either. And true enough, Ivy's next move wasn't against Gloria directly. It was against the past. One afternoon, Gloria received a manila envelope in the mail. No name, no return address. She opened it slowly and froze. Inside were photos, old ones, grainy but clear enough. Her, younger, holding a baby, crying outside a hospital. Then a typed note. Nice little life you built. Pity what secrets can do. Gloria's hands trembled. No, one knew about that. No one was supposed to ever know about that. Her knees went weak and she sat down on the bed, heart thudding like a war drum. She thought it was behind her. The child she gave up, the choices she made, the ones that haunted her through sleepless nights and hollow birthdays, and now Ivy had found it. Somehow, some way, she had dug through the deepest part of Gloria's life and weaponized it. Nathan found her sitting like that, pale and still. Gloria. He rushed over. What's wrong? She couldn't speak at first. She just handed him the photos. He flipped through them, confused. Is this you? She nodded slowly. He looked at her, eyes wide. Who's the baby? Her throat was dry, but she managed to say it. My son. The words hit like a hammer. I had him before I came to this house, she whispered. I was 19, his father was married, I was young, dumb, and alone. I gave him up. Not because I didn't love him, but because I had nothing. Not even a place to sleep. Nathan sat in stunned silence. I never told anyone. Not even your mother. I buried it, Gloria said, wiping a tear. But Ivy, she found it. She's trying to shame me with it. Nathan stood up like he'd been slapped. That's it. She looked up at him, startled. That's the last line she crosses. I don't care what she's done to me, but digging up your pain. His fists were clenched. No more. He made a call, not to his lawyer, not to the press, to a private investigator, a real one. Find out how she got that information, he told the man. Find everything. I don't care how deep you have to dig. I want to know who helped her. Who she paid, what she's hiding, all of it. Gloria touched his arm. Nathan! But he looked at her, eyes blazing. You protected me for my whole life, Gloria. Now it's my turn. Days passed with tense silence. Gloria barely left the house. She felt exposed, raw, like the past had been torn open with claws. And then, the investigator called back, Nathan, you're gonna want to see this. He arrived with files, dozens, Ivy's real past. She wasn't even really Ivy Marlowe. Her real name was Eva Morgan, and she had changed it legally 6 years ago to escape. Fraud charges under another identity. She'd conned a dying man out of his inheritance by pretending to be his caregiver. There had been hush money, a sealed settlement. Then she moved on to another city. New look, new lies. Gloria sat at the table reading the files, heart pounding. She's a predator, Nathan muttered. She targets older men, rich ones, gets close, rips them apart and disappears. He looked up. I'm going public with this. Gloria hesitated. Are you sure? He nodded. She wanted to shame you. But this will shame her. Nathan didn't sleep that night. He sat in his office, rereading every file the investigator gave him. Every fake name Ivy, no Eva, had used. Every manipulated man, every quiet settlement. It wasn't just ugly. It was predatory. It was criminal. Gloria checked on him once. He barely looked up from the paperwork, just said quietly, Tomorrow we go loud. And they did. The next morning, Nathan held another press conference. But this time, there were no warm speeches, no tearful thanks, no heartfelt stories. He walked out wearing a sharp black suit and a storm behind his eyes. Cameras flashed, the crowd hushed. I've been silent long enough, he said into the mic. And that silence has cost someone I love deeply her dignity, her privacy and her peace. I won't allow that anymore, he paused. The room leaned in. For weeks I've been the target of lies, manipulated by someone who built a relationship on deception. That person, known publicly as Ivy Marlowe, is not who she claims to be. He laid it all out. The name change, the fraud, the elderly man she scammed, the trail of deceit left behind, like broken glass. And then he turned to Gloria, who stood just off to the side of the podium, arms folded, eyes hard but proud. This woman, Nathan said, his voice cracking just slightly, raised me when no one else would. She fed me, protected me, loved me, when my own parents were too busy with board meetings and infidelity. She never asked for anything. He turned back to the crowd. She has been humiliated, slandered, and dragged into a nightmare by a woman who saw her as disposable. But Gloria Jennings is not disposable. She is the only reason I'm standing here with any sense of honor left. There was silence for a beat, and then applause. Real, roaring applause. News outlets ran the story within. The Hour. Belmont heir exposes fiancé's criminal past, credits nanny with saving him. From lies to loyalty. The woman who raised a millionaire and took down his abuser. And Ivy? Ivy disappeared. At first, no one heard from her. But then she made one last desperate move. She uploaded a video on social media, standing in a cheap hotel room, mascara smeared, claiming she was being victimized, that Nathan had twisted the narrative and let that old woman poison him. She ended the video with one final threat. You think you've won? You think exposing me makes you better than me? You don't know how deep I can go. You don't know what else I know. The video went viral, but not the way Ivy wanted. Within minutes, viewers were tearing her apart in the comments. You scammed an old man and now you're crying? You humiliated a woman who raised a child out of love. Go crawl back to whatever rock you came from. This is what happens. When the truth hits, it burns. By the end of the day, Ivy's account was suspended. She was done. But Gloria wasn't celebrating. She sat in the Belmont garden with a warm cup of tea, watching the sunlight flicker through the trees. Nathan joined her, quieter than usual. It's over, he said, almost in disbelief. She didn't respond right away. Then, with a small breath, she said, No, it's not over. Not until we heal. He looked at her. What do you want, Gloria? Really? She smiled faintly, her eyes still far away. I want peace. But I also want my story to matter, not just to you, but to the world. Nathan nodded slowly. Then let's tell it. 6 months later, the Belmont estate had changed. The rooms no longer felt like cold, polished museums. There was laughter again. The kitchen smelled of fresh bread and cinnamon. The staff, once stiff and silent, moved freely with smiles on their faces. Nathan had reshaped the entire household, not around wealth, but around warmth and Gloria. She sat at the center of it all, not as a nanny, not as the help, but as the heart of the home. The media had moved on, as it always does. Ivy's name faded into the archives of forgotten scandals. Her threats had been empty after all, just the last gasps of someone who had never known real love or consequence. Word was she fled to Europe, trying to reinvent herself yet again. But it didn't matter. Her power was gone. Nathan had used his platform for more than just damage control. He launched the Jennings Foundation, named after Gloria, dedicated to supporting women in domestic service, nannies, housekeepers, caregivers, women who gave everything and received so little in return. They hosted workshops, built scholarships, and lobbied for stronger workplace protection laws. Gloria didn't want the spotlight, but she showed up to every board meeting, every fundraiser, every speech. When people applauded her, she smiled kindly but humbly, because she knew something the cameras didn't. The real reward wasn't recognition. It was freedom. Freedom from silence, from shame, from the weight of secrets. She even found the courage to write to the son she gave up all those years ago. His name was Jordan now, a school teacher in Atlanta, married, no children yet. She didn't ask for anything in the letter, just told him the truth, that she had loved him, that she had done what she thought was right, that she had never forgotten. He replied 3 weeks later, Dear Gloria, you don't owe me anything, but I think I'd still like to meet the woman who gave me a second chance before I ever knew I needed one. She cried reading that. The first time they met in person, she wore a plain blue dress and clutched her hands to stop them from shaking. But when Jordan walked through the cafe door and saw her, he smiled. The kind of smile that said, I know where I come from now. Nathan stood with her the whole time, just a step behind, like the grown son she never bore, but always had. And later that evening, the three of them sat under the oak tree at the Belmont estate. No press, no cameras. Just quiet conversation, soft laughter, and a bond stronger than blood. That night, Gloria stepped out onto the balcony of her room, the master suite now, gifted to her by Nathan himself. She looked out across the estate, the wind brushing against her face. For years she had been the silent witness, the background character in other people's lives, but not anymore. She had been humiliated, she had been underestimated, and yet she endured, not just survived. She rose, from the shadows of wealth to the center of legacy, from being the help to being the woman who helped build a man worth admiring. Her story would never be erased again. She was Gloria Jennings, and she had the last word.